Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. If Tales from the Cult YouTube page content offends you, please do not continue to watch Tales from the Cult YouTube videos. Tales from the Cult is a channel created to expose certain individuals, entities, topics, and news through entertainment, criticism, and education. The views on this channel are not meant to personally attack any person, place, or thing. I encourage anyone who disagrees with or is offended by my content to search YouTube to find someone who may better cater to your personal, educational, and entertainment needs. The views expressed on Tales from the Cult channel does not necessarily reflect the views of DiamondVixen.com, Charisma the Model Instagram page, or Gina.Blue.R. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. I want to start with the question first. How many of you have heard of the Heaven's Gate cult? How many of you have heard of the Heaven's Gate cult? Because this is the reason people get fooled, because it's not really known. Just looking at this video, it looks like a cult video. It looks like a cult video. In the cult that I was in, they have videos. They had initiation videos. They had videos to teach classes. They had all types of videos. They use the internet to their benefit. They abuse the internet is what they did. And this guy right here, actually, this is when the internet first started coming out. So this was like in the late 70s, early 90s. So let me just get into it. There was an anonymous caller who had reported to the police that 18 men who were mostly castrated and 21 women were deceased in a 3-story mansion. Before ending their lives, the victims recorded video diaries explaining the reasons they were leaving Earth. The victims were found laid on their backs in bunk beds with their face covered with a purple cloth. The deceased wore matching black sweatsuits and discontinued Nike sneakers. Nick Jocelyn, who's a former member of Heaven's Gate, said that the cult's members wore the Nike sneakers because of the company's "Just Do It" motto. All right, so this guy right here is the cult's leader. It was him and a woman who created this cult. His name is Marshall Applewhite. Marshall Applewhite. All right. And so this guy, he was actually an intelligent, educated person. He was born on May 17th, 1931 in Spur, Texas. He graduated from high school in Corpus Christi, Texas in 1948. Applewhite was the son of a Presbyterian priest and later married a woman named Anne Frances Pierce. And together they had 2 children. From 1966 to 1970, Applewhite was a college professor at the University of St. Thomas, which is a Catholic college in Houston. Applewhite was fired in 1970 following confirmed rumors of his extramarital affair with a male student. He struggled with his sexual identity. The president of the University of St. Thomas said that they fired him due to, quote, health reasons of an emotional nature, end quote. Applewhite's wife Anne divorced Applewhite in 1972, and that same year Applewhite met nurse Bonnie Nettles, and that's the second co-founder is Bonnie, who's a registered nurse. Applewhite met Bonnie in a psychiatric ward while being treated for homosexuality. Homosexuality was still diagnosed as a mental illness by the American Psychiatric Association in 1974. In 1974, Applewhite was also arrested in Texas for credit card fraud and auto theft. Applewhite was the son, again, of a Presbyterian minister, and he claimed to be the second coming of Christ. Marshall castrated himself and taught his male followers to castrate themselves for all members and not to socialize with any outsiders. All members had to cut their hair, like this woman here. All members had to cut their hair and identify as neither male or woman, but to remain sexually neutral. Marshall died in 1997 in the mass suicide ritual along with 38 other members of Heaven's Gate in Rancho Santa Fe, California. Before I get into Bonnie, I'm just going to go off the rip on what I see. They're all dressed identical. They're all dressed identical with the same colors. No one can have individuality. That's typical in cults. The men and the women, you can't tell who's who. When the police found the bodies of these people, they all looked like men at first until they started examining the bodies. So if you see behind him, the woman in the back, I believe that's Bonnie. But I'll go ahead and pull up a picture of her because, of course, before they join or before they're recruited in these cults, they live different lives. They're different people. They have family and friends. This leader, Marshall Applewhite, and Bonnie Nettles, they told these people to separate from their families, separate from their friends, and to move to an entirely different state in order to follow Bonnie and Marshall's doctrine. Bonnie and Marshall claim to be prophets coming from the book of Revelation, chapter 11. Bonnie Nettles was the co-founder of Heaven's Gate along with Marshall Applewhite. They were both educated. Bonnie Nettles, she was a registered nurse. She was born in 1927, and she was a mother of 4. She was a medium, a wife to Joseph Siegel Nettles, a registered nurse, a self-proclaimed prophet, and a religious cult leader. Nettles was going through a divorce with her husband when she met Applewhite in 1972 in a psychiatric ward. Nettles abandoned her 4 children and left in 1973 on New Year's Day. Nettles studied the occult and was known to do people's astrological charts as well as frequently visit fortune tellers. Nettles was the brain behind the Heaven Gates cult. Bonnie would often use fake names such as Shelley West when visiting her doctor. Bonnie had actually caught cancer, and she refused to believe the doctors due to this doctrine. And the cancer actually spread to the rest of her body rapidly. It first spread to her eye, and in 1983, Bonnie had to have one of her eyes removed due to cancer spreading rapidly. Now imagine how that looked, you guys. One of your eyes missing and you're a member of this cult. That had to be terrifying. In 1983, Bonnie had her eye removed, and then eventually she died on June 19th, 1985 in Dallas, Texas due to liver cancer. So let me bring up an official picture of Bonnie because they all look the same and you don't know who's who, and that's typical in cults. They want you to be unified, they call it. They want you to be a part of the group. They want you to express your undying love and devotion and loyalty to the group. They don't want you associating with family and friends who don't join the group or who don't believe in the doctrine. We all are susceptible to getting sucked into a doctrine. Why? Because there's this thing called the internet available to anyone and everyone. And everyone calls themselves a prophet these days. Everyone is a self-proclaimed prophet, right? And so people are easily persuaded, especially if you know editing skills, if you know how to make websites. And you guys, this was the late 70s where this cult was formed. All right, so they were making websites in order to fund their lifestyle. In cults, they don't use their real names, okay? So they'll go by a alias, or they'll go by a fictitious name. And we see that with Dana Chanel. We see that with other people in cults who change their name. In Black Hebrew Israelite cults, they use names, biblical names of the Bible, such as Solomon, and any prophet of the Bible. That's what Black Hebrew Israelite cults use. People who get sucked into cults, contrary to popular belief or contrary to what you see in movies, these people are no dummy. They listed homosexuality as a disorder, as a sexual disorder. It was listed in that as that definition for some time before it was changed. It was actually changed and removed from the dictionary. Now, you could say it's a conspiracy theory that they removed homosexuality as a sexual disorder, or you can say it's because they had a difficult time treating these patients who would basically still want to be homosexual or still indulge in that type of activity. So she was the one who taught Marshall Applewhite her occult knowledge, and they were also actually into science fiction as well, such as Star Trek, and it was this show called The X-Files. That show basically was about, it was science fiction pretty much. It was like 2 FBI agents, and they would solve mysteries, like supernatural mysteries and stuff like that. So they were into this stuff. They were into Star Trek, and they mixed all this stuff in with their doctrine. There were 39 victims, again, 39 victims who committed a mass suicide in California, in the perfect suburbs of California. It was a false doctrine. Bonnie and Marshall, they basically used the Bible to suck people in their cult. They used the Bible to basically break down these people mental. Castrated himself, and he told the male members of this cult to castrate themselves as well. He told his followers to be neutral, to not have social relationships, to not to speak with anybody outside the group, to not even be friends with one another in the group. They were told to follow the leaders and to ask the leaders to do anything before they did it. Okay? And that's how cults usually are. They start off friendly and fun, and it's like, we're helping a good cause, we're doing this, whatever the claim that they tell you in the beginning to get you in. That's the lie. That's the front. It's much more devious than that. They have a sick plan. And again, many people don't do their research, so they get sucked into these cults. They don't research the leaders. They don't do a background check. They don't research any past crimes that have been in the news, or any publicity, negative publicity, or factual stories, or surviving cult members. People don't do their research. And these people are ranging from their 20s to their late 60s. So this can happen to any age group at any time and anywhere. Okay, we are very influential people. We are very social creatures. We like to do what others do typically. We're more influenced when other people are doing something and we see it. We're more influenced to do what they do and believe what they believe. The interesting thing about this cult is that they had endorsements from the San Diego Polo Club. The San Diego Polo Club basically hired members of the Heaven's Gate to design their website. Heather M. Cronert was an office manager at the time for the San Diego Polo Club in Rancho Santa Fe. And Heather told the Baltimore Sun that several Heaven Gates members usually came unannounced, and during the summer where they offered their services to design their web page on the internet. So the internet was this new phenomenon, right? And these people got hooked on the phenomenon right away. They rode the wave. They rode the computer wave. They rode the internet wave when it was in the early stages. So they didn't know what we knew now, but many of them had backgrounds in web designs, and they were already a little advanced in their studies with the computer and with technology, a little more advanced than other people at the time. Other people were still using paper and still, just first introduced to the computer, so we weren't using it how we're using it now. We wasn't using the internet how we are using it now, but these people were. So they recruited people through the internet. They would travel around the world in RVs, or another word for RVs is recreational vehicles or campers. So they traveled that way so they could avoid the family members and the friends of the cult members who were desperately looking for them and wondering where their family and friends went, wondering why their mom cut her hair and why she left all 4 of their brothers and sisters and their husband and dog back home and joined a cult and had no further communication with family members or friends as the time went on. So after Nettles died, and again, Bonnie Nettles was the nurse who was also the co-founder of Heaven's Gate, After she died in 1985, June 19th in Dallas, Texas, that's when Applewhite made this new religion and added in UFOs. Applewhite was the one who added in science fiction and removed the somewhat Christian aspect from the group, and basically made the group hyper focused on UFOs and UFO sighting. And so it was this comet, and I'll bring it up. People was talking about this comet called Bob Comet, the Great Comet of 1997. The Hale-Bopp Comet was visible for 18 months from 1996 to 1997. The Hale-Bopp Comet was discovered by stargazers Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp in the United States on July 23rd, 1995. Applewhite, he decided to take the group to a new level. He told the group that they would be basically that Jesus, or the way Jesus would come back, is not how everybody thinks he will come back, but the way that Jesus will come back to them was through a spaceship or a flying saucer. And that's how they believe that Jesus would save them, and they would go be basically upgraded to the next level, as they called it. They believed that their bodies were just vehicles or containers that was used by extraterrestrials in order for the extraterrestrials to live on Earth. They were just containers being used. They were neutral. They weren't female or male. They were just being used for this greater type of purpose. And that's what they said. If you look at their artwork, and I'll bring it up here. If you look at their artwork, they have the actual comet, the Hale-Bopp Comet, in the artwork. And what they believe, since everybody was obsessed with this comet because it was so close to Earth, they believe that the flying saucer is hiding behind the Hale-Bopp Comet, and that the closer this comet got, because it was like one of the brightest and it lasted for so long, I believe it shined for like 18 months to the visible eye, he added in that they would be saved with that flying saucer that was dwelling behind the comet. And yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but if you stay and listen to these people long enough, you will actually start to believe them. Okay? You will actually start to believe them. So he was just the talker of the group, but the registered nurse was actually the brain behind it. All right. So this is how they were found. He told all the members to wear all black with Nike shoes, because the Nike motto was just do it. The bodies were found either on cots, mattresses, or bunk beds, and they did it in 3 stages. So it was 39 of them. 15 of them went first, basically taking their own life, while the other people basically watched and assisted. After the first 15 people basically took their own life, the next 15 people helped each other to take their own life. And what they did, they mixed applesauce, vodka, and phenobarbital, which is a prescription drug that can only be prescribed by a doctor. So where did they get this phenobarbital from? Where did they get this anti-convulsive medication from? And I think they had some ties to the hospital. I think Bonnie had some people she knew in the hospital who had her some connections and was able to get that phenobarbital. Phenobarbital can be used as a liquid. It can be used as a pill or an elixir, which is basically like a mixture of several things. And that's also a liquid. So basically, the police got an anonymous call. Who was this person? Who was this anonymous caller is my question. Who was this anonymous caller? If these people are in are in Rancho Santa Fe, California, which is 30 miles north of downtown San Diego, in the hillside in a gated community in a mansion, a 3-story mansion. Who the heck would know that they did this to themselves? So who is this anonymous caller? So I really think that they had a plan. Basically, they had it all planned out. They had a plan to keep this going even after they died. So what I think is they had a member who didn't do it. They had a member who didn't commit it and was able to be the one to tell all, if y'all know what I mean. It's levels to the indoctrination process. After a certain point, when you're deep in the doctrine, anything they say, you believe. Anything they say, you believe. You don't question it, because you're often ridiculed, punished, verbally abused, or in some cults physically abused for questioning their leader or questioning their so-called prophet or elder or whatever they want to call themselves. Many times these people have mental disorders. They have illusions and delusions, and they have schizophrenia, and they have untreated mental illnesses. And those are the people who become these cults leaders. People are educated who create these cults. They're not dummies. They're not dummies. They're charismatic. They look friendly for the most part. They have personalities. They may be funny, fun to be with and hang around with. You may have some similarities to them. So they were found in all black, wearing all black with some Nike shoes. Every member had their hair cut, whether they were a woman or a male or woman. And so that's how the police found them, with a purple cloth, which is a ritual. This is a ritualistic. 39 people took their own lives. And this was just the 39 people was just the amount that were left. It was hundreds of followers. And it's probably still followers out there. And I'm going to go and take a look at the website, and we're going to look into all that. And we're going to get into Little Uzi Vert using the actual cult artwork for his cover back in 2018. And he changed his profile picture, if you can see right here, to Marshall Applewhite, which is the cult leader of Heaven's Gate. White, this man right here, and Bonnie Lou Nettles, they convinced their followers that their worldly bodies were just containers and vehicles that could be discarded in exchange for a higher physical existence, which they called above human. Marshall Applegate persuaded his believers to commit, in which after death they believed that they would enter the kingdom of heaven. The means by which they would get to the kingdom of heaven was by a spacecraft controlled by UFOs that dwell behind the Hale-Bopp comet. The 39 members, which included Marshall White, ingested vodka and applesauce laced with phenobarbital. Phenobarbital is a drug that can only be prescribed by a doctor, and is typically used to treat individuals who have seizures. The deceased cult members wore identical outfits, including matching athletic shoes. The members had a total of $5.75 in their pockets that was meant to spiritually pay for their spaceship fare. Wow. The cult traveled through recreational vehicles, better known as RVs. The Heaven's Gate cult would travel often to avoid the family members who were looking for their missing relatives. The members of Heaven's Gate were recruited discreetly or through the internet or other means, such as promotions in newspapers, promotions on TV, or advertisements, in newspapers, advertisements on the radio and TV. This is different ways that they have recruited members. So they would often travel so they could run away from these people's families, which was so sad.
Hello? Yes, I need to report an anonymous tip. Who do I talk to?
Okay. This is regarding what?
This is regarding a mass suicide, and I can give you the address.
The address seemed the unlikeliest of places, a mansion in a quiet, affluent suburb of San Diego.
I have a gagging reflex with smells, so I wanted to take care of that. So I put cologne on my shirt and put my shirt over my nose.
Rio D'Angelo was the first one to discover the bodies and called 911. 21 women and 18 men had taken their own lives.
Must have been a lot to take in.
It was a lot to take in. It was disturbing because I'm yelling for people to see if they're still alive, and I'm also saying goodbye as I walk through.
It may have been a shock, but D'Angelo had an idea of what to expect. He'd been one of them. In his earlier life, Rio D'Angelo had been Richard Ford. After going through a divorce, he felt lost and was looking for a spiritual path.
They intrigued me in a way that was like nothing else.
They called themselves Heaven's Gate, a cult started in the 70s by a man named Marshall Applewhite, who later called himself Doe.
Let me say that our mission here at this time is about to come to a close.
Doe told his followers the earth is simply a garden to grow souls, and he could teach them how by following his strict regimen. All aspects of life were regulated, including what books they could read and what TV shows they could watch. Once the soul is developed, it's time to exit. To outsiders, that meant committing suicide, but to them, it meant moving on to a more developed kingdom. A spaceship or UFO, he told the group, would pick up their souls and take them to begin their new lives. This is what their new life form would resemble.
It is suicide to not leave. It is to take life, to leave this body behind.
D'Angelo bought into the man and his teachings, but after 3 years, he felt something pull him away. He felt there were more things he needed to accomplish. He now believes it was to share his experiences with Heaven's Gate and let people know the truth about its leader.
I can say with absolute, undeniable certainty that Doe was the second coming of Jesus. I know it's true.
All right, y'all. It's time for me to go. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much.